Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. It's a little cloudy out there today, Joe, but gosh, it's been a beautiful week, man.
It has been pretty. I've been off the last couple of days, spent a little time standing on a ladder in the surf zone and trying something a little different for those pompano. Can't say that I was extremely successful. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of fishing, but you get a step ladder and you get it out on the first bar and you try to see the pompano coming and just pitch them jigs and whatnot. And I saw a lot of fish early in the morning. In fact, they were jumping like hardtails do, kind of like showering like hardtails do. But man, they came right by me and I put jigs right in front of them. They weren't having anything to do with it. A little later in the day, I actually got a kayak and paddled that 8-foot stepladder out to the second sandbar and got on it and stood there for probably 2 or 3 hours. And I mean, it was beautiful. It was gorgeous and the water was pretty and sun was up, but I was not super successful. Maybe we got to get Isbell out of there on the ladder and see if he can figure it out for me.
Yeah, I've never heard of him doing any ladder fishing, but that's not a bad way to spend 2 or 3 hours on a beautiful day.
Heck no, man. I got a cooler and ratchet strapped it onto the top of that ladder and had a few beers out there. It was kumbaya time out there.
Sweet, man. All right, well, let's get right into this thing. We have a great fishing report today, all made possible with the support of our local businesses. This week's sponsor is your local Geico insurance office. Everybody knows Geico has great auto rates, but did you know they also have great rates on boats, ATVs, motorcycles, and personal watercrafts? Give Ron Davis a call at 251-445-0053. Not only will Ron work hard to get you the lowest premium possible, but you'll have the service you expect and can count on if you ever need to make a claim. But Geico does even more than insure your valuable items. They also offer on-the-water services like towing, battery jumps, gas delivery, and you can save by bundling these services with your insurance. If you are an Alabama saltwater fisherman, support the local insurance agent who helps bring you the fishing report each week. Call Ron Davis, Geico agent at 251-445-0053 or visit him online at geico.com/mobile-al. Thank you, Ron and Geico, for making this podcast possible. What we got going on this week, man? Who's going to give us our first report?
Butch, let's keep talking about surf fishing, man. I want to go down there and hear from Matthew Isbell. I don't believe he's been on a ladder, but let's see if he's got a little insight on what's going on for those pompano and whiting and anything else we can do from the sand.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Isbell has ever talked about pompanos showering before. They're in the water. I don't understand why they need a shower.
Well, we're gonna find out. What's going on, Matthew?
What's up, guys? Man, we're just in the thick of things on pompano fishing. It couldn't be any more exciting right now for us avid beach fishermen catching pompano. It is here. We are in the peak of the pompano run and catching large numbers, catching big ones. We're just loving life, man. It's good. Things are good.
Would you say it's pompano pandemonium?
I like that. Pompano pandemonium. Kind of
I was thinking more like this is kind of like full rut pompano fishing.
Yeah. If it were deer season, it's like the rut. We are in the rut right now. Like you got to hit it right now. Ask off work. Take your vacation. Get on the beach. It's time to get them.
Sweet.
Yeah, is it happening all day long, Matthew? Are y'all picking up fish pretty consistently throughout the day, or is there a peak timing that you're finding is a better chew than the rest of the day?
For me personally, what I'm doing, I'm generally running 2 trips a day, and I am going early mornings and then late afternoons, and we're having a lot of success in that time. However, I have fished some days for myself, middle of the day, late morning, midday. And I've also had reports from other anglers out there that are fishing in the middle of the day that they're catching also. So I would say any time of the day, you've got a great shot at catching pompano. What you're going to run into, regardless of what time you go, is it's going to ebb and flow. You'll be fishing. You'll have a period of time, 15, 20, 30 minutes maybe where you're catching fish pretty consistently, and it's going to stop. And then you just kind of have to wait it out and wait for those pompano to come back through again. It may take 30 minutes, it may take an hour. Who knows? They will eventually be back, and you'll eventually start catching fish again. they're just kind of constantly moving up and down that beach. So any time is really fine. There's not a time that I would say is a bad time of the day, and there's really no way to predict exactly when that's going to happen, but you just got to be patient and wait for those runs.
Man, I know we've talked about it before. I don't remember which show it was, but you talk about those pompano coming through kind of sporadically. I know you know how important it is, but it's so important to get bait back on the hook. I know beach fishing is kind of known as being, a chill situation, but it's so important to get your bait back out and take your pictures later, right?
Yes, yeah. When I'm running trips, it's really like NASCAR.
Yeah.
And when we get bait, when those fish are coming through and we get that first hookup and we get that fish on the beach, it can be kind of an exciting moment. And everybody's kind of like, and I'm the one that's like, all right, we got to go. I'm getting baits back on, I'm pushing people out of the way. I'm putting it back out there because I know you've got to capitalize on those opportunities and make sure we get those fish while they're there.
Oh yeah. That could be the difference in a limit out day and just a decent day.
Absolutely.
We talked about it in the past couple of weeks about, kind of staggering those baits, maybe putting one in front of the bar, one on the bar, and one on the other side of the bar. When you have a fish come through and you get that first bite, do you do anything different with your other rods to go ahead and put them where that bite came from, or do you just leave them be?
It depends on how many we're running. And for somebody, and the way that I do things is a little different because I'm out there every day, so I have a pretty good feel of it. But for the person that's brand new, you're walking in blind, I would say you probably want to wait until maybe that second fish before you make any changes. So once you do stagger your baits, you get that first hookup, I would still leave everything kind of where you had and kind of just see, because there could be a random fish or whatever. It is still so important that you are in the right depth. I mean, in some days, like yesterday, we caught a lot of fish, but if I was off my mark by 10, 20 yards, casting too far or too close, we were not getting bit. So it is so important that you are in that right window where those fish are running. And I mean, so yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to that and keep track of it, but I would wait probably until that second fish. So if you've got 3 rods out, close, medium, far, if you catch one on that far rod, kind of leave everything be. If you catch another one on that far rod, I would say, okay, that's your pattern. Go ahead and move everything in that zone.
A couple of weeks ago, you talked about the floats really making the difference, and you had the guy that had been diving, and he had seen that those pompano were stacked up a little bit more, kind of in the middle of the water column as opposed to being right along the bottom. Is anything making the difference for you right now as far as your rigs go? Are you seeing any kind of difference with hookups on floats versus no float, naked versus a bead, anything like that?
I would say our biggest success still is high float with a float. Yeah, high drop with a float. I've actually got 2 rigs right now tied where I have a single drop and they're both tied high, probably 2 feet off of the bottom. So, probably 24 inches from the bottom of the rig where I tie my weight on. And that's general, like even on my double drop rigs, the bottom drop is probably 8 to 10 inches off of the bottom. And we'll catch pompano there, but it's definitely, I would say 90% on the top. So
you feel like that's relation to that weight? They're seeing that weight and that's bothering them? Or is it just where they are in the water column?
I don't know. I doubt it's the weight because a lot of times that weight's going to be buried in the sand anyway. And I would have a hard time believing they're picking up on that, maybe. But I mean, there's so much stuff on the floor, out there. I don't know how that would catch their attention and make them shy off of it. I would guess they do feed the bottom. I mean, if you look at pompano, their mouth opens up to the bottom and they eat sand fleas and ghost shrimp and all that, and the coquina clams, which obviously they're going to be getting a lot of that off of the bottom. But I think when they're cruising, they're not going to be hugging the bottom. They're going to be swimming, I would imagine, off of it a little bit, and they're cruising in their school. So I would imagine if they're still coming down to feed, I would imagine they're catching that first float. That's getting their attention first. So I think that's probably more to do with it than necessarily something shying them away from it.
Matthew, I tie up my own set rigs, and so that's part of the reason why I'm asking this. But when you say that you've got that float line 2 feet from the weight. How far is your branch line to the hook itself? So if you can envision, if folks that are listening, you can envision your main line, which is going to have your main line going all the way down to your weight. Then you've got a branch line coming off of that. How long is that leader?
I tile mine, and I don't. There's no reason I do it this way, and I can't say what's right or wrong, but I do all of mine 4 to 5 inches, and it seems to work. So we catch plenty of fish. So I mean, I would say probably anywhere in that 4 to 5 inch mark, keeping it off. I don't want it too long because I feel like if it's too long, it's just going to get kind of wrapped and tangled on stuff. But I do want it off of the main line a little bit.
What about the rest of the bite? Is it a pretty clean bite?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, if you go out right now, generally you're only going to catch pompano, which we're not complaining about that one bit. That's the name of the game right now. But we are still seeing some big redfish. I mean, really big bull redfish. They've been hanging pretty far out from the days that we've hooked into them, and we've had some decent days with them. And then we're still seeing some whiting, but most people are not catching whiting, and we're not really focusing on them because they're not really hanging most of the time in the same areas that the pompano are. Pompano are generally deeper, a little further out. If you're looking to catch whiting, they're generally going to be hanging closer to the beach. And sometimes I'll put a line out in addition to our rigs out there looking for the pompano. I'll put something out there close just to pick up a few whiting to kind of keep us busy while we're waiting on those pompano. But they've been kind of small. Like, I'm not seeing really any good size to the whiting, and it's not a great bite. So it's still pompano is kind of our going all in, focusing in on it.
All right, Matthew, we got to get an onshore tip from you. This week is brought to you by the Alabama Gulf Coast Slam Fishing Tournament going on now through May 18th. They've got daily weigh-ins from 11 to 6 at Zeke's Marina in Orange Beach and Fort Morgan Marina at Fort Morgan. There's no registration required for anglers fishing aboard a registered charter vessel, but that's hard to say,
Vessel.
But registration is required for guys fishing from the pier, bridge, surf, or the jetties. So, guys, for more information, y'all head over to AlabamaGulfCoastSlam.com. What you thinking for a tip this week, Matthew?
Yeah, something right now, because pompano fishing are pretty busy, so you're going to probably have to walk a little ways. But I have noticed a lot of people setting up pretty close, pretty much on top of each other. It's happened to me a few times. And the kind of rule of thumb that I use is I try to get outside of casting distance, not necessarily surf casting distance, but like if I were to tie a lure on an inshore rod and be able to cast it to the next group, I would say that's a little too close. So I try to get outside of that casting distance, maybe 30, 40, 50 yards kind of out of their way before I set up. If you're getting there late, and the beach is kind of already full and there's space between groups, don't go set up in between those groups. There's a reason that space is there. Those guys that set up far enough from each other. So if you're showing up later in the morning, you got to pay that price. You're
right. You got to take the march.
Walk a little bit. That's right. Keep on walking. Give everybody enough space.
Yeah, it's always good to remember a little bit of etiquette.
Sure.
And
safety too.
Well, there's a lot of folks getting into surf fishing that have never done it before, and it's like anything. There's some etiquette to everything. So that's a good reminder this week. Thank you, Mr. Bama Beach Bum. If folks want to check you out online, how do they do it on YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube, it's just Bama Beach Bum. You can search that and pull me up, or you can go to my website. That's staybummy.com.
All right, Matthew. Thanks for the report. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe. Sounds like things are still doing good on the beach with the Pompano pandemonium. Let's head on down to the Orange Beach, Gulf Shores area, see what's going on in the offshore report. What's going on, Angelo Depaola?
Man, what's happening, guys? Just down here, had some buddies just pull into the dock, came back from an overnight trip, and really had a pretty solid trip.
What kind of flags they flying?
They got a blue marlin flag flying.
All right.
They weighed in a 165-pound yellowfin.
Wow.
And one other smaller yellowfin.
What's the report as far as location-wise? Are those fish close in, or they have to run a ways to get to them?
You're going to have to run a little ways. These guys on the on grade, captained by Captain Kennan and owner Frank, just three of them on the boat. The owner, the captain, and the deckhand, a little 40 Cabo. And they said they started off at the Ram Powell last night, was void of life, nothing out there. Went to Horn Mountain, same situation, a couple of supply boats, no sport fishing boats, void of life. Went to Nakika, put out some live blackfins, caught nothing but sharks. Went to Blind Faith, repeated that process. So early in the morning, they put a spread of lures out and some lures and some Islander ballyhoo combinations, caught a little 30-pound tuna at Blind Faith, and started working their way back to Nakika. And this is just like, I don't know you guys, but like, how many times have you been in that like 1 mile to half-mile radius away from the oil rig and whammo? Like, it just happens a lot. Oh, yeah. I just think a lot of big fish hang out a little bit further off the rigs. You just catch a lot of them coming and going. So they get about a half mile from their oil rig, boom, hook a big tuna, thing ends up weighing 165 pounds. That fish ate a plastic.
Wow. Had the
on the short rig.
Out.
So put the baits back out, didn't even get another lap in. Boom, blue marlin, Islander ballyhoo combo. And, fish for a little while longer, not too much. Said there was a really nice push starting to form up a little north of Nakika.
That gets me excited. I know what Butch likes to do. There's hardly anything better than a good rip, a good weed line to fish, getting in that tower and watching those fish come off there and tack those baits. I don't know that it gets any
nothing like it.
Water for me.
That's my favorite kind of fishing, is to get on a good weed line, especially if you get there early or you're out on a weekday and you have it all to yourself and haven't been hit real hard. I mean, the fishing just gets phenomenal.
It does. What about the swordfish? I understand you got out there and got after the swordfish a little bit. What's going on there?
Man, we went Sunday night, and I can tell you, I know I can recall at least 4 or 5 times that I've gone and fished nighttime swordfish post full moon, like, the first 5-6 days after a full moon. And we ain't ever done any good on them. Well, Sunday night was a repeat of that. Leading up to it, those days leading up, I mean, it will get red hot post full moon. I was a little concerned, but the weather was calm. There was really nice water. We were over kind of in the steps area. Clear. I mean, we could see the lights down 150 feet. That's how clear the water was. No squid behind the boat, a few flyers, nothing really to write home about. Buddy of mine was not that far away from us. Pretty much the same result. Now, talked to a friend of mine that daytime fished them on Monday. He caught 3 of them. So, literally, if you're listening to this, I mean, there's a good piece of knowledge right there on, just how you're going to plan your trips and what you may want to look for and not look for. We ended up catching a nice box of tilefish. It was interesting. We were kind of picking away at them, and right around noon, I'm not sure what the moon phase was there, but my guess it was probably underfoot, and it was one after the other, 2 or 3 at a time for the next little bit for us. And
that's an interesting pearl of wisdom, Angelo. Like, if somebody was going to plan a trip, an overnight trip where they were hoping to catch a swordfish, or at least have good fishing for swordfish in between days of fishing, that would really help me a lot. I'm thinking, we're probably going to put together a trip for this fall. I'm definitely going to look at the moon phase now, because I don't want to maybe going for swordfish specifically in those days right post full moon. But it didn't seem to affect things on the daytime side. No,
if anything, it turned them on the daytime side. I mean, so like what tells me is they're feeding, during the day and maybe not so much at night, which I wonder if it's the other way around, because those 5 days leading up to the full moon, I've just blasted them before. So, interesting.
Or maybe they just, whenever the full moon comes out, they come up to the surface more, feed, that way at night whenever the full moon is much higher, and go back down during the day. And so they're feeding during the day on the bottom more.
Well, I'll tell you this. This is what I find with, especially if you're nighttime fishing. When you have a bigger moon, whether it's post or pre-full moon. But when you have more moon, you have deeper light penetration in the water. And when you have deeper light penetration in the water, the bite is deeper. So like those plankton that are moving up from the bottom, because they're down there during the day, they don't come up as far to the surface. So you get more of your bites. Like I'll set my lines at 400 foot, 300 foot, and 200 foot when we have a lot of moon. And then if we have no moon, since you have less light penetration into the water, the bites tend to be closer to the surface. So that 50 to 150 to 250 range is kind of where you want to be. And then, you know, if you can't really call it one way or the other, go 100, 200, 300. But like that's my general swordfish setup, at least at the nighttime thing.
That makes a lot of sense.
What about the tilefish, Angelo? You mentioned y'all tried that the next day. Where were y'all finding those fish?
You know what's interesting about tile fishing is if you're going to do it, what you want to do is look for some muddy bottom. And it's really a prospect fishery. Like if I know if I'm looking at that chart and I see those contour lines are really far apart, I mean, it sounds crazy, but like if you just start dropping randomly and drifting, and what you kind of want to do is have your sinker skip across the bottom. So as you're drifting, your line's going to scope a little bit, and your weight's going to come up, and so the fish are really bottom oriented. So we'll let it come. We might even reel it up another 50 feet, because what seems to tend to happen is as soon as that weight hits the bottom, I'm not sure if it's a poof of mud or whatever, like the bites come right away. So you're kind of drifting and up and down with your bait some. And you know what? I'm not going to tell anybody exactly where I'm going, but I promise you, if you go out and do that, you will find spots. And that's how I've found all of mine.
Well, I like what you're saying there. So when you say contour lines, you're saying the further apart those contour lines are, you essentially get kind of a flat spot, so to speak.
Those fish are like guppies. They're looking like you want flat mud bottom. Like, yeah, you catch them deep dropping for groupers and stuff like that. But like you'll notice, you don't catch a whole lot of them, especially you don't catch, the Goldens. You'll catch those blue lines. You might catch a handful of Goldens. But if you're just going to go tile fish, find a flat spot and start dropping. I promise you'll go catch them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We even caught a barrel fish, which was weird.
Well, that's completely kind of different, from what you're looking for when you're trying to catch scamp and grouper, and you're looking for some of that natural bottom with some different ledges and drop offs and maybe a rock or two here and there. It's a completely different deal for tile fish. Sounds like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You're looking flats.
With tilefish, you're dropping so far down there. Do you have a go-to bait that you really like that, seems to stay on the hook better?
Man,
you don't have to worry about it.
If I don't have to me, fresh cut, bonita, blackfin, amberjack, that's primo. But these fish aren't picky. I mean, there's not a lot of stuff to eat down there. I like squid personally. I mean, bring you 2 5-pound boxes of squid, because you're going to lose some baits, you're going to miss some fish. But another thing is really small circle hooks. I think most people fish hooks way too big. And a little big circle hook took a 30-pound fish pretty easily, no issue.
Oh yeah, that'll get it done, man. All right, let's. You got the hey cap question this week, since we were talking about. I guess it was wahoo. Was it last week or the week before? I'm not sure, but. High-speed trolling seems to be the new hot thing to catch wahoo. What time of year, time of day, lure selection, and speed do you feel is the perfect combination to target wahoo while high-speed trolling? That question comes from John Walsh. Thanks, John Walsh. He's going to get that Fairhope Rattle Popping Cork this week. What do you think, man? Kind of walk us through it. If you're going to high-speed troll, I would say spring and fall. What you got?
Man, I got spring and fall, but I think the most important thing in that whole equation is location, where you're going to be doing it at. I mean, if you're in a slow boat, you might as well just put baits out wherever you're traveling to. But if you're going out and you're in a center console, something with some speed, well, I think if you're off of Dauphin Island, now you want to get into that, here again, that 400 foot where you'll see it on your chart. The contour lines start getting tight, and you can swing by all those oil rigs. If you're coming out of Orange Beach or Pensacola, I mean, we have the ledge, and I don't even say really the nipple. I think even more so, like north of the nipple in that 200 to 400 foot range for me. And lure selection and I think it really comes down to color. I mean, I really like the Islander with a skirt in the back with a couple big egg weights and a double hook set behind it. And I've seen some days and some where they are just dialed in on blue and white, which isn't really what a lot of people consider a Wahoo color, but they'll just, some days they'll eat that. I love darker colors. I think a pink and orange, a purple and black. Black and purple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a black and pink and a black and orange. But I will always keep something light colored, or blue and white, something in the back. And there's so many lures. I mean, like if you go into, like, say, J&M Tackle, there's stuff that's been on the shelf in there, and some of those lures are meant to catch anglers and not so much fishermen.
Right.
Look, we're talking speed here. I mean, for me, one of the things that I look at is like what my fuel burn is. On a monohull boat, you start going that 14, 15 knots, you're just burning fuel. On my boat, I'll push it back to 10 because I find that's a little bit more fuel, 10 to 12, that's a little bit more economic fuel-wise. Yeah, I don't cover as much ground. But, Bush, we were talking before the show, we've caught fish going 21 knots, and you caught a blue marlin going 21 knots.
Yep.
So I like that. For me personally, I like 10 to 12. I've got a friend of mine that has a catamaran. It's a displacement hull. We go 12 to 18 knots, and we just blast them off that boat.
It sounds like John's just getting into this. So let's talk about where you set those baits. When you're trolling, do you have some visual, you'll hear people say we set them 300 feet, or right, whatever. But I always like to go visuals where you can say, like you're saying, Butch, the third wave in the wake, or something like that. Do you have any visuals that you could give John to help him as far as setting his baits? Yeah. And also, do you like to stagger if you're pulling two lines? Do you like to stagger your baits?
We're talking number of lines you're pulling, right? Like I know guys that like to pull 4 lines. I think if you run over a fish, whether you have 4 lines, 2 lines, or 3 lines, you're going to, he's going to hunger. He's going to come up and bite one of them. Mm-hmm. So I'm a fan of staggering, and I like to troll just 3 rods. I like one down the middle. I put it way, way back. I mean, when you think you got it far back enough, just keep on going a little bit further. Then I put one kind of medium and one a little closer, but everything is a pretty good ways back behind my boat, because I don't want it to be in any white water. I want my Wahoo baits to be in clean water where they're easy to see and the fish can easily find them. Your boat is a giant teaser, so if they're down deep, they're coming up, and then hopefully by the time they get up, they see your baits.
I agree with you. As far as 3 lines, I usually do 2 flat and 1 kind of shotgun. And I think a lot of it on the length behind the boat, a lot of it depends on how fast you're going, obviously. And I do like to put one down a little deeper. I like to put, a big snap swivel off of my main line and then do a
trolling lead.
A trolling lead. Yeah, I couldn't think of the proper terminology. A trolling lead, then a wire, 12-foot wire with your whatever your lead head of choice is or something like that. And I like to put that one about shotgun down the middle, down a little deeper so it gets out of that whitewash like you're talking about.
What about drag? That's another thing that people I see, I think they kind of miss the mark on setting their drag when they're trolling. What do you guys like to do?
For me, what you'll find is you'll need a lot of drag just to keep your line from coming off the reel. I like to have it a little bit past that point. I know that's not very specific, but when you're out there fishing, you'll notice you'll get to a point where the line quits coming off your reel.
Yeah.
Just go a little bit past that.
But it's not full strike.
No.
Yeah, and that's I think where a lot of guys just used to just putting that lever up to full strike, and they kind of miss that mark too.
Because you got to figure you're going one way really fast
with a big
he ain't even really running. Yeah, he's not even really running, taking off a lot of line. It's just your boat's going forward so quickly that I just think they're back there shaking their head thinking, what the heck just happened to me?
And now you're
Agreed.
trolling something that weighs 40 pounds instead of,
Yeah.
2 pounds or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, I like it.
Gosh, I appreciate it. Great report. Like literally had somebody pull up to the dock right when we were getting ready to talk. And
Worked out good.
man, good wahoo information, good swordfish information.
Do you have
I feel like
no, I was thinking you have a listing of the week you can talk about? What's going on the real estate side?
Man, I will tell you stuff. I don't have something new that I brought to market this week, but I have a really good one, and it's in my neighborhood. And yes, I'm biased because I live in it, but it's in Terry Cove Harbor, right across the street from the water. 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, some water views. But here's the thing that's really sweet about Terry Cove Harbor. You have your own private boat launch. It's gated. They give you a little key fob. You have your own private boat storage. Here again, gated, barbed wire around it, and great amenities. Like there's tons of families. It's like families and retired people with a few second homes. So parks, multiple tennis courts, multiple basketball courts. And like if you go to the neighborhood pool in the summer, I grew up pretty much, might as well have been Dolphin Island, but you're the same way. Joe, I didn't know you when you were younger, so I'm not sure I'm just assuming you grew up the same way. So I didn't grow up in a neighborhood with a pool, but I remember going to visit my cousins with a pool in Atlanta, like in one of those neighborhoods in Atlanta, and it was like the 80s. It feels like the 80s when you go there. Like everybody from the neighborhood's there, they're grilling out. It's a cool vibe. $500,000. And look, I know that people are like, man, $500,000 not be on the water. Yeah. It's expensive to be on the water to have something nice. So this gives you all the access without all the price, save a little bit of money on insurance. It's a pretty good deal.
For sure. Yeah,
and we've had it appraised in a home inspection. Yeah. Look, if you're in Orange Beach or you've been to Orange Beach, well, Boggy Point right now is not in action.
Yeah.
And Cotton Bayou, that's a small boat launch. I mean, literally, there's not a lot of places to launch a boat down here. So having your own private one in your own neighborhood, man, I love it. Back my boat up to my garage, throw all my stuff in it, launch it. You come out right out by Orange Beach Marina. If you haven't already put fuel in your boat, come to Orange Beach Marina, get fuel, get ice, and game on.
That's right.
Great.
Roll out. Well, sweet, man. We appreciate the report. Sounds like things are heating up a little bit offshore. I like that for sure.
Yeah.
What's that?
We've got OBBC coming up, but we also got the Floribama Fishing Rodeo coming up. And about a month out. Tell us a little bit about that tournament because I know you're real involved with it.
John McGinnis, who's the principal at the Floribama, me and him grew up on Mobile Bay together, and he moved away, and we reconnected when we went to college, rekindled our friendship. Well, we grew up fishing the deep sea fishing rodeo, and we both live over here, and we said, man, we would love to have something like that atmosphere on this side of the bay. So with that in mind, we started the Floribama Fishing Radio. I think it's 5. This will be number 6. I can't remember. They start to blend together. But we did it with fun in mind, with something for everybody. So we have pelagics, we have inshore species, we have offshore species. Every year, there's going to be multiple people that win stuff fishing right off the dock. We have a kids division, and we have really good prizes.
Y'all got a dadgum category for blue crabs, don't you? I mean, you got a category for everything. For folks that have kids, it's hard to find things to do that will satisfy, mom and dad's interest, but also satisfy the kids' interest. I'm really looking forward to coming over this year and bringing the kids. And Butch and I are going to come over and get a condo for that weekend, and it sounds like it's going to be a blast.
Man, I'll tell you, probably the thing that I love the most about is the kids division. And it's been interesting watching, you see kids that started off like maybe they were 3 when they started fishing with us. And every year you see the parents, the kids, and it's it's pretty cool to kind of reconnect, see what they're catching. And, we're giving you'll have to go online typically it's kayaks and buckets and fishing rods. It's a heck of a prize package. Yeah, I'm sure some of y'all's listeners have fished it and can attest. I mean, it's like a 3-hour ordeal to give away all this stuff.
Yeah, it looks like a lot
plenty
of
of time to catch a bushwhacker.
If folks want to check out more about that, the info and tickets are over at FloriBamaFishingRodeo.com. It's coming up May 31st through June 2nd. So y'all come on down there. We'll be doing a podcast that week from there. So it sounds like a lot of fun. Angelo, thanks for the report, man. We'll catch up with you soon, and good luck out there, buddy.
Hey, guys, I appreciate it. Y'all have a great one.
All right, Butch, where are we heading next?
Go head on down to the man with many names, many titles, Marshal of Mississippi Sound, Captain Bobby Abriscato. How are we doing today, Captain Bobby?
I'm glad you kept the rest of those titles nice and clean, man.
That's right.
Because this is a family. Yeah.
That was a good one.
I got a lot of other titles, but we can't say those on the air.
That's right. We all do. What's been going on, buddy? What you been catching?
Man, it's been really good. I'll tell you, we've had this pretty good stretch of weather. You have this time of year, you're going to get a lot of wind, and but when it blows, fortunately for me at least, and down in the Sound, it blows out of the north, and that really helps that water stay fairly clear down that way. And if you keep up with the river stages, we really haven't had a lot of super high water, which is kind of not normal for this time of year. What little bit of high water we've had coming out of the Delta has gone out of the mouth of the bay. So basically what it means is the Sound stayed clear. And, man, the fishing's really been good. Huge numbers of fish down in the Sound. Catch a lot of small fish, but I'm using a lot of artificial bait right now, and I don't mind going through small fish when I'm catching a trout on artificial bait. It's when you start feeding them 30-cent shrimp, that's when that's when they get a little frustrating, So, but fortunately they've been biting the artificial bait, and we'll catch 100 or 150 fish a day. And if you could keep a limit fairly easily if you wanted to. We don't do that, but you could, I think, just by going through those numbers of fish. So anyway, basically it's just really been good, man. Really been a good last couple of weeks down that way, down towards the lower end of the bay.
It's great news. What about the redfish?
If you want to catch them, they're there. There's a lot of reds, both on the outside beaches. The bull red fishing, we're having a bumper crop year on that. If you like catching those bull reds out at the mouth of the bay, like Dixie Bar and the east end of the bars on Sand Island, those fish are loaded up out there. That's all catch and release for us. We don't kill any of those fish, but the bull red fishing is fantastic. The marsh red fishing, on the days when it's windy, you can get the creek mouse, and they're always there. I mean, I don't care if it's July or I don't care if it's January, you're going to be able to catch those fish, at the creek mouse and the points, the bars down in the marsh down there with either gulp or live shrimp. Fishing under a popping cork, just kind of depending on what the weather does. But yeah, it's really been good, man. That too. And I've been kind of doing a mixed bag of that. It's mostly this time of year, man, we get trout on the brain, and, everybody's targeting trout. The other good thing on the subject of trout, but not the ones with spots on them, there's a lot of white trout on the structure down in the Sound right now. If you get down some of the deep structure, if you have numbers on wrecks or even some of the public reefs down there, there's just swarms of white trout that have shown up down there. And that's a lot of fun too. If you just want to go, catch something to put in the fryer or something like that, there's no size or creel on those fish. So it doesn't mean you have to keep everyone you catch, but you can literally go down there and catch those things every cast, and if you're having a fish fry, you guys know this.
Oh yeah.
If you're having a fish fry that evening, that night or the next night, man, keep those fish cold and ice them down real good and cook them that night. Don't freeze them. And I'll put that just about against any fish that I catch as far as having like a good fresh fish fry, so that's been a lot of fun too. We finished up today on those, on a big swarm of white trout, and, people were cooking fish. We already had our specs, and, they were cooking fish tonight. And I said, man, let me see if I can catch y'all some white trout too. And, they caught those gulp on a jig head. If you get in, 6 or 8 feet of water or deeper, you put gulp on a jig head if you're around white trout, and they'll jerk it out of your hands. That's the way to go on that. Now, if you got bait, obviously that'll work, but you really don't need it. You can put that gulp on those fish, and then and they'll just eat it up.
Sweet,
Bobby,
I like
you're
that.
talking about 100, 150 fish days. Are those fish biting on up well into the morning hours? I mean, obviously, I know you get started early, but are you seeing any peak time right now?
Usually by mid-morning. It's like today we had just fabulous conditions because we had wind and we had cloud cover, and they bit until we just got tired. Literally, the trout got tired of catching them and went and targeted those white trout. And because we had all the specs that we were going to keep. But even when you get to sunny days, they're biting on up into the morning, and that's kind of a product of the water temperature. It's still a little bit cool, and those fish will keep moving. The key is fishing that shallow water. The shallow water that I like to do this time of year is you've got to have at least something to move the water, to rough the water up a little bit, and that's what keeps those fish kind of biting. If it gets dead slick calm, even when it's cool like this, it gets a little bit tough. But we've had some wind, and like today, it was just A1 perfect. We had a little bit of wind, a lot of cloud cover, and they just bit all day long to where I was I was literally catching fish to where I had to pull the trolling motor up a couple times, scrubbing the bottom.
Wow. What about topwater? Is it starting to produce yet?
It would be, JoJo, if I was had the opportunity to do it, it would work fine. I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. I just don't like doing it when I got 3 or 4 people on the boat. You guys know what kind of disaster that can be when you start throwing a big plug with treble hooks on it, with that many people on the boat. And especially when you get on a hot bite. We've been on some really hot bites lately too. You guys too. I mean, y'all have both been on the boat with me. We all get excited and you start slinging those big plugs around. And something bad's probably going to happen,
I know you've been wanting your eyebrow pierced. That's an easy way to do it. To be stylish.
Exactly right.
You could even attach your 2 eyebrows together with 2 treble hooks on a mirror.
That's exactly. Picture Bayou with a treble hook in this a pierced ear with a pink skitterwalk hanging from his ear. Can you picture that look right there? That's what would happen.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So anyway, it would happen if you were out there by yourself or with a buddy or something. You had room to do that. I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. This is a great time of the year. Today would have been a great time to do it. The fish were biting, we're a little bit pre-front, like I said, with the cloud cover, it would have worked fine. So, if you want a topwater fish, just because I hadn't been catching them, don't not try it, at least first thing in the morning.
Bobby, if you're fishing in the sound there and you're trying to get started a lot, we talk about it a lot like it's old hat, because it is old hat to you. But if somebody's trying to get started over there, is there a certain depth? I know you were talking about being really shallow today. Is there a certain depth somebody wants to look for to kind of maybe take a drift if they're not sure of the area? Should they try to keep their boat in a 3 to 4 feet of water, 2 feet of water? What can a guy look for if he's new to that area over there?
I wouldn't dwell too much on the actual depth of the water. I would kind of look at what the bait's doing. And if the bait's up shallow, get your boat as shallow as you can do it first thing in the morning, as early as you can in the morning. Get your boat up as shallow as you can. See where the bait is. But if the bait's not right up on the beach, we've been actually having a little bit of low water, relatively speaking, tide-wise, low water. And sometimes you'll see that bait is actually back off the bars and bait in terms of, right now there's a lot of glass minnows, bay anchovies is what they call them, a glass minnows, and is what the trout are on right now. And just kind of watch what that's doing. You don't necessarily have to be in, watch your bottom machine's not going to read if you get under 2 feet, no matter what you're doing. That's when I start looking at like what the trolling motor's doing or what the big motor's doing as far as scrubbing mud. But you kind of have to watch the bait and kind of, if you understand a little bit about what's going on with the drop-offs, they'll tell you where they want to be. So there's not like a magic number depth-wise. You just kind of have to kind of get a feel for it. It's going to be within, if you're fishing around an island or a bank or something like that, you're going to be within about 20 or 25 yards of that bank or island. Just watching where that bait's doing and where the slicks are popping up. And that's where the fish, what you might come up there like today, we had fairly high water. Fish were kind of closer up to the banks. 2 or 3 days ago, we had extremely low water and the fish were 20 or 30 yards further out. So they're just kind of pulling up and down on those small drop-offs and that sort of thing. You kind of have to get a feel for it, so there's nothing I can tell you. Just say, go put your boat in 4 feet of water, 3 feet of water, whatever. It's just kind of a feel thing. The other thing about throwing a popping cork with a spinning rod or a top water, if you get a chance to do that, is you can cover so much water. You can be casting towards the bank in a foot or foot and a half of water, or out away from the bank in 3 or 4 feet of water. And when you start getting bit, that kind of tells you where the fish are wanting to be. So that's another thing that can kind of help you find out what kind of depth you need to be in.
Bobby, I know you've been thinking about it, and I've been thinking about it too. We got to get the inshore tip from you this week. What you got for an inshore tip? What you thinking?
Well, I thought this was kind of fun. We've had a blast the last few days. There's a lot of Spanish mackerel around right now, up in the bay, way up in the bays, which is, I guess, kind of a little bit early for that species of fish to be up in the bays. I had some guys that said that they had to kind of get off a trout bite because they kept getting cut off. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's mackerel. You can see them jumping. They're jumping on this little glassman, as I was talking about. I mean, they're feeding on those. Mm-hmm. And so I carry some real light single strand 44 pound, you can probably get lighter than that, but you just need something that'll keep them from cutting your hook off. And I just tie about a 6-inch piece of steel leader on there. And when the trout are on fire, it doesn't affect the trout bite, but then you don't start losing your hooks. And on top of that, you start catching those mackerel. You start catching a 2 or 3 pound Spanish mackerel on a trout rod. I'm telling you, it's World War III, Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of fun. So the tip I would give you is just carry a little, you can buy a little spool of it at whatever, tackle store you shop at. Keep it on the boat. You can learn how to tie straight to it, or you can just put a little swivel on it, put the same hook on it. 6 or 8 inches is all you need, and you'll keep catching your trout, but you'll start landing some of those mackerel and that sort of thing. And that's going to go on probably for another month or so, where you're going to be, when you get around trout, you're going to be around some of those mackerel, and that'll just kind of keep the action going to where you don't have to keep retying hooks, and you'll keep catching fish.
That's a good tip. I know I do a lot of triple tail fishing, so I keep some 50-pound fluorocarbon on the boat with me at all times. I imagine you could probably do the same thing, and you would eventually need to retie that, because even that, those Spanish mackerel would get, but you catch a few on it and still probably keep catching trout, I would imagine, if they're biting. You could still, with that heavy of fluorocarbon, you would. And the other thing is, with that, the fluorocarbon itself too, you don't even have to worry about, you could tie it, straight to your whatever mono or braid you're using. A lot easier to tie than, there's knots that you can tie to steel leader, but with fluorocarbon, at least you can just tie straight to the line. That's the other thing. You don't have to put a swivel on it. Right.
For sure.
Well, Bobby, I would imagine you're pretty booked up right now, but if folks want to get in touch with you and get a trip going for this spring, and probably looking at more like this summer now, how do they do it?
Just go to ateamfishing.com, which is our website, and that'll give you all of our contact information, phone number, website, that sort of thing.
All right,
and there's actually some pretty cool video up there from one or two of our trips the last couple of weeks. We've talked a lot about fishing, looking for trout slicks, and I got a couple great pictures of some trout slicks here on the last couple trips. If you want to see what a trout slick looks like, you can check it out there.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff. I've enjoyed the times that I've gotten to fish with you, and we've been able to fish those slicks, and I learned a lot about, well, basically that I was just doing everything wrong. So y'all go check that out, and Bobby can learn you something.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, they're doing it in those slick fishing right now. That's the deal. It's just a dead giveaway. It's the action's incredible, and a lot of times they're not in the most likely places. When you see something like that, those slicks, they just really, really give those moving schools of fish away. So if you learn how to see, I'm telling you, if you learn how to recognize that, it'll really, really improve your springtime, and really in springtime and fall fishing, when the fish are up in shallow water, really, really help you catch a lot more fish if you learn how to recognize that.
Very cool stuff. Well, Bobby, be safe out there, bud. We'll check in with you here pretty soon. Thanks for the report.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Captain Bobby. Stay safe. Keep wagging them.
And this week's Inshore Tips brought to you by CCA Alabama. This week got a special. Man, I'm fumbling all over my words this
week. Veshel and special.
I wish I was drinking. I'd better have a better explanation. But anyway, we got a special message from Blakely Ellis in CCA Alabama. Blakely, welcome to the show. Tell us what you got going on this week, man.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. So we've got our 20th annual Lower Alabama chapter beach party, and that's the fundraiser for the Orange Beach chapter. It's going to be down at the wharf in Orange Beach on Friday night from 6 till about 9:30. And wanted to tell everybody about it and make sure everybody knows they can come join us.
Tickets, can you get them at the door, or you think this thing's going to be sold out?
It might be sold out. I'm not going to promise you can get them at the door. If you can, they're going to be $125 per couple or $85 for a single. If you get them ahead of time, I can promise you can get those, and they're $110 per couple, $75 for a single, and that includes a 12-month CCA membership, which is $35 worth of that, and then dinner by Villaggio, which that's a pretty good restaurant down there at the wharf. And then we've also got plenty of drinks, and so it's a pretty cheap night in the town, and I guarantee it'll be fun for about $100. I'll put that up against anybody.
Butch, when was the last time you took Melissa out for dinner and drinks and got it in under $110?
Man, you need to leave out the for $110. For me, unfortunately, I don't take her out near enough. But yes, that's a very cheap date.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of fun. See, it's not a coat and tie. It's maybe not a bathing suit, but a pair of shorts and flip flops and a polo shirt or a button down Columbia shirt. You'll be in good shape and in good company there. So it's a lot of fun and laid back, and that's why we do it on a Friday night, because people like to cut loose a little bit more at this one.
Well, Blakely, it definitely sounds like a good night out and an affordable night out comparatively. But more importantly, where does that money go as far as the money you guys will generate from Friday night? What's it going to be put towards?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you where it goes in a second, but I also want to stress that our ticket prices for all of our CCA events, we don't aim to make any money. We aim to cover our costs for that ticket, for the food, drink, and venue. We put all our eggs in the basket of the actual fundraising at the event through our raffles, silent auction, and in this case at Orange Beach, we've got a live auction. All the money we raise though from those each of these events, it stays right here within the state. It doesn't leave. The only money that goes to our national office is for your membership, and that's that $35 portion. But all the actual net proceeds stay here. That we decide locally, at our state board and our local chapters how to spend the money. And a lot of it is we team up with the Department of Conservation. Traditionally, it had been a lot of artificial reef work. We've got a very deep background in that, but artificial reefs are in excellent shape now, and so we're looking to branch out some, and we do everything from support research and scientific studies with some of our local universities like South Alabama. We work on kids fishing events and getting some fishing rods out into the public and into the kids who can use them, and try to introduce more people to the sport. And then we also it's something that we wish we didn't have to, but we're also out there using some of these funds to help fight for our rights to, continue to access the resource and continue to go out there and fish and make sure we've got a seat at the table, and we're going to be doing our best to represent recreational anglers.
Blakely, if folks want to get tickets, I don't think we got to that. Where can they get them? Where can they pick them up ahead of time?
So we've got some available at the wharf, and we've also got some down at Sam's Bait and Tackle down on Canal Road in Orange Beach. But the easiest and best way is to go on the website, CCAAlabama.org, and that'll get you under the events tab. You can pick the Orange Beach event. You can purchase your tickets there, and you can also come back to that. And I believe we're going to be set up for a online silent auction. So if you can't make it to the event, you might be able to participate via texting and through the mobile site. So stay tuned for that. If you're not going to be able to make it and you'd like to potentially bid on some of our items, you might be able to do that through that link. If you buy it and win it and you can't pick it up, make sure it's something that I can ship you, because I'm not going to ship you a grill or a just be advised that you have to pick it up if it's not a certificate. So, but definitely would like to invite everybody to check it out.
Well, Blakely, if folks can't make it out, what else can they do besides becoming a member of the CCA? What else can they do to help support conservation in Alabama?
Yeah, so one of the easiest, and it's kind of like it's a win-win, is to purchase the saltwater fishing license plate. A lot of you have seen them around town or on the back of vehicles, and some of you may have had them in the past, or you want it's been on your list to get, but encourage you to go pick one up. It's $50 extra on top of your normal registration, but $42 of that comes back to us, and we use that strictly for conservation projects, those youth fishing events, stuff like that. And you can personalize them for free, and so that's an easy way for you to get a nice looking tag, and for us to continue to work on some of these projects. But you can also get involved in any of our local chapters. We're always looking for good helpers and people that want to support us in more ways than one.
If y'all want to get a hold of that tag, just head over to the Alabama Department of Revenue's distinctive license plate page at revenue.alabama.gov. That's a saltwater fishing license plate. Well, Blakely, good luck on Friday. Hope y'all have a good event. We appreciate you being on, man. Appreciate
you bet. Thank you, guys.
Around saltwater and in conservation. We good to have you on. Good to hear from you.
You bet. Y'all keep helping us, and we'll keep doing our thing.
Thanks, Blakely.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe. That's going to wrap up another Alabama saltwater fishing report, man. Some good stuff happening. What did you learn this week, bud?
That you can catch everything right now. What are folks not catching? And sounds like from talking to everybody, don't go out with one thing in mind necessarily. You can have a target species, but you better be prepared for everything.
Right.
The guys in the surf, it's all here now. All those fish are here. There's really nothing that people like to target that is not being caught. There's some things that aren't in season.
Triple tail starting to show up. I've been seeing a couple of those being caught.
Captain Richard Rutland, I believe, has caught 2.
Yeah.
So I was hoping you wouldn't say anything about that today. Maybe
Sorry.
Give me one more week. But
you don't fish anyways. What are you talking about?
Well, you just had to go there. But yeah, triple tail are here. So yeah, just be ready, man. It's here. Fishing season is upon us, and I know I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to a good spring and a good summer.
Yeah, me too. And I agree with that. You may be targeting the same thing that you always target, but be ready for other species that are going to bite while you're doing that. I like it.
That's right. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like us to email you the podcast, you can go over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR, and we will send you the new show each week. As I'm sure you've noticed, we've started to go longer with the show. Everybody that had something to say said they wanted the show to be longer, so we made it longer. But we do want to hear from you on that. If you'd like to see a shorter format like we used to have, let us know. We're just always trying to make this thing the best thing we can make it. So if you got feelings, good, bad, or indifferent, let us know in the comments. Let us know on Facebook. Send us an email, however you want to tell us.
Get in those Hey Cap questions.
Definitely. Alabama@bestfishingreport.com. Got some giveaways coming up here pretty soon. Y'all be checking back with us for that. And we'll see you guys next week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like a horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA@nationalland.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with EXP Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
Also brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at CCAAlabama.org.
And also Great Days Outdoors, the South's finest hunting and fishing magazine. Pick up your copy wherever magazines are sold, or check them out at greatdaysoutdoors.com. And also Killer Doc. Are you suffering from dock dysfunction? Check out a full line of dock enhancement at killerdoc.com. That's killerdoc.com. And also A-Team Fishing Adventures. Check them out online at www.ateamfishing.com or contact them at 251-661-7696.